Mandla, 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 Mandla. Thank you very much, comrades. Mandla. Mandla. Away, two. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Eita, Kosas, Eita. Eita, Kosas, Eita. Eita, Sasko, Eita. Eita, Sasko, Eita. Long live the YCL, long live. Long live YCL, long live. Chikijela Fasimba, Chikijela. Mandla. Away, two. Long live the ANC, long live. Long live the ANC, long live. Long live South African Communist Party, long live. Long live South African Communist Party, long live. Long live COSATU, long live. Long live COSATU, long live. Ngandusilwa Mhlali, Ngandusilwa. Long live Sanko, long live. Mandla. Pata President Ramaphosa, Pata. Pata President Matamela, Pata. Mandla. Long live the ANC, long live. Thank you very much, comrades. As introduced, comrades, I would have been given a responsibility to read the declaration of Congress flowing from commissions and provincial submissions, as you would have witnessed. The declaration, comrades, is a declaration of the 26th National Congress of the ANC Youth League. We as delegates of the African National Congress Youth League convened at the 26th National Congress under the theme, Economic Freedom and Social Change Now, not later. Rise to the front as frontline troopers of the liberation movement with an unyielding determination to champion the cause of our people. While we acknowledge the progress made since the dawn of democracy in 1994, we refuse to be complacent. Our struggle for economic freedom and social change is far from over. We resolutely reaffirm and reassert our unwavering allegiance to the immortal principles enshrined within the hallowed pages of the Freedom Charter. This sacred convent remains our compass that directs our path towards economic freedom in our lifetime. We express deep concern over the recent policy debates within the ANC, which have neglected the crucial issue of macroeconomic policy. This goes against the tradition of our movement and fails to address the overwhelming expectation placed on the ANC as a revolutionary force. The African National Congress, as a beacon of hope, and stands duty-bound to mobilize and lead society towards a vision that dislodges the tendentious trap of dominant class. Let it be known that we shall not waver in our pursuit for an alternative, one that offers a transformative paradigm that changes the existing order. We call for an immediate shift in the discourse surrounding economic policy. The urgent implementation of strategies that promote economic freedom. It is our duty to dismantle the barriers that hinder the economic empowerment of the majority, especially the youth. We emphasize the need for radical and transformative economic policies that address the structural inequalities inherited from apartheid. We can never secure true freedom and social change if we do not challenge the status quo and rectify the injustices of the past. We reject any efforts to postpone or delay the pursuit of economic freedom. The time for action is now, not later. Delay is tantamount to perpetuation of the shackles of poverty and the perpetuation of inequalities of our past. We declare with unyielding conviction that the time for decisive action is now. We declare that state-owned land in close proximity to economic opportunities in our cities ought to be reserved for mixed housing. In particular, we advocate for priorities given to destitute and precarious workers who bear the unbearable brunt of exorbitant commutes, which is taxi fares and associated expenses. Local government authorities must strengthen and enhance building requisites, thereby compelling private developers to integrate affordable and inclusive housing within their residential projects. The 26th National Congress resolves that the ANC must use social wage transfers as mechanisms to stimulate demand and to create market for black producers outside the mainstream food system. Through linking these producers to this customer market through cashless voucher systems linked to the grants that can be redeemed from the producers. In other words, comrades, the Congress says that disbursements of grant systems must be made such that the local producers, who are our mothers in the rural and township spaces, can be able to access the money that is dispensed as grants, because they are producing cabbages and all other consumable goods. So the system as it is does not allow that our people must benefit out of the disbursement of grants. On the expropriation of land without compensation for socialization, the 26th National Congress reaffirmed the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa as it relates to the obligation placed on the state to take reasonable legislative and other measures to create conditions to gain access to land on equitable basis. It means this is where we agree with the Constitution of the Republic, that it must take reasonable legislative and other measures to create conditions for citizens to gain access to land on an equitable basis. In this regard, the 26th National Congress resolved that we must agitate for expropriation of land without compensation in the metros, to release land for housing construction, and that the rents of social housing must be reduced. The sale for well-located state land parcels must be subjected to public consultative process, and that the ANCYL clique structures must organize the youth to actively participate in the process of the sale of land. So that land is not sold without public knowledge. That any land that must be sold in our local municipalities or in our localities must be sold out of a consultative process with the people, because this is the people's land. The ANCYL clique further resolved that the state land close to economic opportunities in cities must be reserved for mixed income housing with a priority of precarious workers, as it were. On strategic nationalization for industrialization, the 26th National Congress asserts that the call for nationalization needs to be complemented by significant export restrictions on critical minerals. This is where we're introducing, comrades, a concept as the Youth League that there must be export quotas for raw mineral resources in our country. To encourage beneficiation and strategic management of administered prices critical to the downstream industrial production, which is energy, water, roads, and other mineral and strategic minerals. In this point, comrades, we are saying, unless we introduce export quotas of raw materials, we will not be able to industrialize the South African economy. But in order for us to force industrialization of the South African economy, particularly on minerals like platinum, uranium, lithium, you must introduce export quotas because we have comparative advantage in the world. So that industries are created here in South Africa for purposes of creating the much needed jobs and the much needed economic growth in the country. Furthermore, complementary and reinforcing trade industrial policy measures will also influence firm-level investment, productivity, employment, and competitiveness. This Congress agreed that we also need a clear industrial plan for battery storage industry, the green hydro sector, and the new vehicles. The 26th National Congress resolves that the democratic government must increase funding on research and development, focus on indigenous knowledge systems, innovations with scope for commercialization, which implement our existing and talent areas of competitive advantage. What this paragraph says, comrades, is that our government must invest more on the intellectual property development industries, so that we can have, comrades, what we call technology independence and economic sovereignty as a result of investing in the indigenous knowledge systems in the country. Because if you don't invest on research and development, you will never innovate on your own. You will be a consumer of technologies that are produced elsewhere, comrades. So in order for us to gain technology sovereignty and economic sovereignty, we need to increase GDP spending on research and development. On balanced, inclusive, and decentralized economic growth and development, the 26th National Congress notes that challenges remain in the lack of understanding the structure of the South African economy. and the template of South African capitalism, which is run, owned, controlled, managed, and managed by monopolies and oligopolies with a racial character. With a racial character. What we are saying here, comrades, is that the structure of the South African economy does not reflect the demographics of the country. It is monopolized by few South Africans who are white in the main, and that the value chain is closed. And they are closed only to white South Africans. Black-owned SMMEs are not participating in the value chain of the South African economy. And we're saying this thing must change. Noting the ANC Youth League 26th National Congress therefore resolved that the ANC-led government must place at the top of the agenda for economic transformation, deliberate SMME and support in order to utilize them to disaggregate value chains in the monopolized sectors of the economy, so that black-owned, youth-owned, and women-owned SMMEs can be full participants in the South African economy. This will help to grow the economy, but also to expand the constrained South African economy. The 26th National Congress resolves that the state should act to curb the excessive market power of large monopolies and conglomerates through giving Competition Commission the required teeth and the capacity to bite. It means, comrades, we must give Competition Commission, comrades, the capacity to discipline capital in this country. The Congress resolves that we will mobilize the structures of the ANC Youth League and all mass democratic movement to a relentless fight against privatization of the network economies, such as rail, road, strategic import terminals, logistics networks, digital infrastructure network, water network infrastructure, sanitation infrastructure, and all other strategic network economies. We will wage a relentless fight against the privatization of the network economies. Because these are public goods, comrades. If you privatize water, the water network system, you privatize rail, you privatize roads, you privatize the sanitation infrastructure, it means you are taking away all what is in the public hands, what is public goods. And we're saying as the Youth League, we will fight a relentless fight against this particular neoliberal program. The state must support localization by reducing reliance on imports by 20% over the next 5 years. This is the suggestion by the IRRP, which will contribute to the 200 billion to the country's national output, as well support SMMEs and cooperatives to access new import markets, especially the BRICS markets. Comrades were saying we're part of regional blocks, regional economic blocks, enabled by AFCFTA, for example, in the African continent. Youth-owned, women-owned, black-owned SMMEs are not exporters of goods to the African market. We're saying let's exploit that particular opportunity. We're also saying youth-owned, women-owned, black-owned SMMEs are not exporting to any of the BRIC countries. We're saying if we introduce, comrades, these particular legislation where we reduce the reliance on export and support localization and manufacturing, we will be able to export to China, to India, to Brazil. We're not only going to be consumers of commodities coming from these countries. That will create economic opportunities for more jobs in the country. ANCYL League National Congress resolves that the ANC-led government must establish a fund of funds administered through the Small Enterprise Finance Development Agency and NYDA and derived from 1% of the net profit after tax from measured entities for concessionary finance for black-owned, youth-owned, and women-owned SMMEs and cooperatives. And also inclusive of all underspending of enterprise component of enterprise supplier development, which should be surrendered to this fund of funds. In other words, comrades, here I was saying, the fund of funds that must be introduced, comrades. All departments that are not spending, all economic departments that are not spending in each financial year, they must lose their money to this fund of funds to support youth-owned, women-owned SMMEs, comrades. On basic and higher education and training, the ANCYL League 26th National Congress notes that South African education system still bears the hallmarks of the history of separate, uneven development and exclusion of the majority of South Africans as productive citizens in the economy, and their exclusion in the process of learning, teaching, production of knowledge, arts, and culture. In other words, comrades, you note the inequalities in the education system 30 years into democracy. And this is what is reproducing, comrades, poverty and unemployment of the black masses of our country. It starts in the education sector. The 26th National Congress resolves that the ANC must revert to its historic position of conceptualizing, visualizing, and articulating the transformation of education system as one. The tendency to fall into the trap of decoupling the two into basic and higher education is flawed, as the two feed off each other and ought to align and be reflective of the development imperatives of the country. The administrative organization of education system into departments must not inform or duplicate our conceptual clarity. The ANCYL League 26th National Congress further notes the unequal access to sanitary dignity packs, particularly those that come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and that this affects the learning and compromises the dignity of the girl child. The 26th National Congress resolved that the state must further provide free sanitary dignity packs to every girl child in basic education and higher education. On economic sovereignty through energy security, the 26th National Congress notes that the ANC has a mammoth task to develop a sustainable economy on behalf of the citizens of our country. As Section 24 of the Constitution guides us to protect the environment while we pursue our developmental agenda. This does not say that our country should not be developed, but our country should invest in instruments that seeks to minimize the impact to the environment so as to protect the needs of future generations. The 26th National Congress notes that the climate crisis we are experiencing today is as a result of choices of the developed rather than the underdeveloped countries. In other words, comrades, is that the carbon emissions you see that have damaged our ozone layer is not a problem of the developing countries like us, South Africa, and other developing countries of the world. It's a problem of the developed countries. It's them who have damaged the environment. In essence, the global north requires us to resolve their mismanagement of the environment. There is, however, certainly a need for a balance in energy generation for powering our industries, and that the balance is called energy mix that guarantees energy security and resilience. The ANCYL 26th National Congress resolves that the country must urgently resolve the baseload crisis by developing nuclear energy as part of the mixed energy to enable reindustrialization of the country. The Congress further resolved that South Africa should include renewable energies on conditions that assembling of the components is done in South Africa and production of other components in the renewable energies is done in South Africa in order for us to reindustrialize. The conference, comrades, resolved that South Africa should seek ways of sustainable exploiting coal resources using research and development as a cornerstone. This will include the deployment of carbon capture, storage, and utilization technology on the coal. The 26th National Congress resolved that government should unashamedly continue with its exploitation and exploration of South Africa's natural resources, such as oil and gas, for purposes of energy security and increase and income generation for oil and gas proceeds. The ANC must delegate in dealing with the energy transition, and that all decisions should be informed by the economy we want, that of reindustrialized economy. On the international relations, Palestine, we stand in solidarity with Palestine people in their ongoing struggle for self-determination, freedom, and the end of occupation. We condemn the illegal Israeli settlements, the violation of human rights, and the continued oppression faced by the Palestinian people. On Cuba, we stand in solidarity with Cuba as a symbol of resilience and standing up against imperialism. We recognize Cuba's significant achievements in health, education, social welfare, despite facing decades of economic embargoes and political pressure. On Venezuela, we stand in solidarity with the people of Venezuela as they confront economic challenges and foreign interference. We stand